Hello, my friends. This is Dwight from Forest Glory 700 coming back at you with another video. And this video, like all other videos, hopefully will be very brief, but I wanted to address an encounter that I had. Um, I bought a bedroom set for my daughter, and unfortunately, the knobs that you would use to pull the dressers, the screws are not long enough, so it doesn't hold the knob securely in place. So I went to this furniture store, a well-known one in the province of Ontario, and I proceeded to speak with customer service. I've had to do this for a couple of weeks. Long story short, they're supposed to resolve the matter for me. There was another gentleman in there who I believe is of East African descent. He looks kind of like he has like Arab in him or Indian in him because his hair is his skin complexion. He was actually darker than I was, but his hair and his hair on his face and his head was straighter along the lines of, like I said, an East Indian person or um, an Arab person, and especially for people that are of East African ancestry. To my knowledge, a lot of them have that mixture in them, versus West African, whose features are predominantly like my own. Their hair is a lot more coarse, tighter, and so on. You know, broader noses, bigger lips, that sort of thing. Anyways, he was in the customer service department that I was in, and he had bought a mattress and he wanted to return it. It was in its package, the whole bit. And apparently, this furniture company has a policy that once it's arrived in your home and the person that has delivered it has left your premises, that there is no return. You can have an exchange, but you cannot return it for a refund. So, anyways, he said what he had to say to them. He was respectful and so forth. He just found it somewhat shocking that he couldn't get a refund on an item that was not open. I could partially agree with him on that, to be honest with you. I think if the package is in its original package and it has not been tampered with, just take the return. But anyways, they have their policies, and I guess as people doing business with these types of companies, you got to read the fine print. So after we left customer service, we left separately, but we bumped into each other inside the furniture place, and we started talking. And he started to say to me that it's because we were black, and it's because we're black that they would not uh, extend sort of a return policy of some sort. And I thought to myself, I even called him out on it. I go, well, you know what? My experience with the individual I was dealing with and the individual you were dealing with, I didn't see anything that would make me believe that there was some kind of racial undertone behind it, and that somehow it's because we're black that's why we weren't given probably the optimal service or the benefit of the doubt regarding our particular issue with the furnitures that we purchased. So I just found it really strange that he kind of just automatically assumed, not knowing these individuals. The person that served me, he wasn't European. The person that served him, I believe she may have been. I really wasn't looking at her too closely. But the notion that somehow it's because we're black that we got this secondary treatment. And I'm like, well, no, not at all. They have a policy. She actually showed it to you. She presented it to you and said, oh, this is what it is. And it applies to anyone that makes a purchase with our business. But I just found it so funny that he was so adamant. He was very strong with me on the fact that it is directly as a result of us being black. And because we're black, they're going to treat us less than if, let's say, we were someone of European ancestry. Again, I don't necessarily believe that in our particular situation. I simply think it's a policy thing, and she did pull out the policy and had the gentleman read it. But it was kind of interesting to note that his first reaction when we spoke privately was to say it's because we're black. And I'm like, no, it's not because we're black. They have a policy, and whether we like it or not, that policy is going to apply to all people across the board. But I thought about it somewhere, and I thought this is sometimes what the problem is within our community. We're often always looking for racism under every little rock and every little pebble and boulder, and you name it. We're just looking for it, and it's like we have a vested interest in somehow people being racist towards our community. And for the most part, I don't believe that's true at all. I believe there are instances where it's very blatant and it's clear. In our particular instance, I don't believe that's the case, but I find all too often within the Black community, there's always this emphasis and focus on Blackness and uh, discrimination and racism and so forth, when oftentimes that's not the case. It's simply, again, a policy issue in our case, but oftentimes it's not that. And I think as a community, we need to stop always appealing to, well, when something doesn't go our way, it's automatically, it's racism. It's because I'm Black. It's because I'm not white. It's because of this, that, and the other. I think we need to move on beyond that. That's just me. My experience has always been a positive experience growing up here in Canada. I've been in this country from as a wee little lad, real small. And I've always, overall, in this country, I've had fantastic encounters with people of European descent. Some of the most wonderful and most sincere, most wonderful people that I've encountered in my personal experience have been people of European descent. I've also experienced that with people of other ethnic groups. So I'm of the belief that we need to start learning to deal with people as people and not lumping everyone into a particular group and saying, well, they all think this way, they all conduct themselves this way, they all behave this way. It's not the case. We need to learn as individuals to deal with people on a first come, first served basis. And unfortunately, I think within our community, there are parents who have children who are teaching their children that they're always going to be behind, you know, third base or whatever the expression is related to having to go the extra mile. There's so many opportunities for us in our Western culture, especially in Canada, that there's no room for that to be an excuse as far as I'm concerned. But people will be people. I know from my own experience, and I'm not raising my daughter to believe that at all. I'm raising her to believe that the truth, which is that she has all the opportunities that are afforded to her in this country as long as she applies herself. Anyways, this is Dwight from Forest Glory. Thought I'd just throw that out there. Not everything that we experience as quote unquote Black people in a negative respect to people of other cultures can always be easily lumped down to racism. No, that's not always the case. And for the most part, I'd say it's not. Oftentimes, there's policies and procedures that these people have to go by, and we simply have to respect it and not necessarily be digging up for some kind of ulterior motive when it doesn't exist. So, this is Dwight from Forest Glory 700 coming back at you. Have an awesome day. Goodbye.